Welcome to IQ Weekly. I'm Mark Wright. We're talking about the workplace once again with workplace experts Bob Rosner and Sherrie Campbell. Thanks a lot for talking with us once again, you guys. Thanks, today's topic is a very tricky one because there are a lot of legal issues that have spun out of this, and it's the sex of your boss. Is it better to work for a man if you're a woman and vice versa? And you've got some good advice for us today. So are you ready to jump right in?
We're ready.
Okay. And we're going to get some strategies, I take it, too, in terms of ways of dealing with, say, for me, if I had a female boss. Right?
Yes.
Okay.
Certainly.
Let's jump right in. I've got a list of questions that I want you guys to tackle. Do you have a preference for a male or female boss? Why or why not?
You ready, Sherrie?
So you prefer a female boss?
Yes.
Why?
Well, ladies first, Sherrie.
Okay, Sherrie.
Hit the lady poster. Oh, well, right. Okay, I'll go first.
These graphics are a little high-tech, too, I have to say. But they're good, aren't they, at home?
That's right.
Yeah.
Zoom.
Okay, so you have a preference for working for a man?
I actually do have a preference of working for men. I appreciate the strategic thinking. I appreciate their ability to analyze and kind of boil things down into simple and more direct ways. And the thing that I appreciate most, though, Mark, is out of Fortune 500 companies, 494 of them are occupied by these guys.
Wow. Okay, I have to call you on something, though. There are a lot of probably female executives out there that say, I'm decisive and I can analyze thought, too.
Certainly. Certainly.
Well, let me
Not
argue.
often displayed, but it certainly is true. There are women who do have that skill set.
Okay.
Let me argue the other side, which is I've worked for the tin men before, you know, guys with no hearts. I like the heart. I like the relationship focus. Now, again, Mark, we're dealing in the land of stereotypes.
Right.
But the problem is that stereotypes exist because a lot of them apply. But I would much rather work for a woman than a man because I think that there's a more holistic approach to the workplace.
And I think exactly what you were saying. You might be surprised. Some of these guys have that sensitivity and that networking skill that we anticipate out of women, but we don't anticipate out of men.
Okay,
so you're
we
absolutely
kind of
right.
covered the next one already in terms of who is more popular. And you say, what is the statistic again for the Fortune 500? Fortune 500,
Yeah. More men occupy those places. 37% of the population would rather work for a man.
Oh, really?
19% for a woman. So women are clearly behind in terms of this relationship.
Popularity.
But the problem is more and more women are going into management positions. So I think we've got to deal with the fact that women managers are here to stay, and we've got to learn how to work with them.
So why do you think that bias still exists? I mean, obviously, societally, it's part of the larger issue. I mean, look at the U.S. Senate and how few women actually are in the U.S. Senate. Is that what it stems from?
Well, that's a portion of it. But the beautiful thing is younger people now are developing a different attitude. And I think we'll see that more and more. And I think that even now in higher levels, we're seeing that at some level. But there are still some stereotypings, and there are still some strategies as far as dealing with male-female relationships at work.
Sherrie came across a great study, though, that identified 52 leadership skills, and women were ahead in 42 of the 52. Wow. So women are uniquely positioned to be successful leaders today.
So do men have a preference and do women have a preference out there? Is that the statistic you just threw out, or is that a different one?
That was kind of across the board, but the interesting thing that I found in that same study is that female managers will tend to hire men as opposed to hiring women for management positions under them, which I found very interesting, and I was amazed. We anticipate that women would want to help other women, step into management roles, but that really wasn't what we found in the study.
So why do you think that's happening?
Interesting things.
Well, I think that it's a patriarchy, and for you to be a woman and get to the top of an organization, chances are you're going to realize that a lot of the stuff that works is traditional male behavior. Again, I think as more and more women get in, the glass ceiling begins to shatter. We'll see more female characteristics. Based on that study, we need to see more female characteristics right away because they're better leaders in a lot of ways than men are.
Okay, the $64,000 question in all this is how do you deal with the boss of an opposite sex? Is there any real advice that you can give us?
Yes, I know for myself, as a female, I've learned to be bilingual. And by being bilingual, I mean, there are times when men actually just want the answer. They want it boiled down, and they want a direct answer. And so I've learned to be bilingual and know my boss well enough to know how to address him.
And again, this is a stereotype, but when you're dealing with a woman boss, often the ends are important, but the means are just as important. So if you're dealing with a woman boss, it's really important to talk about the context, the relationships, how you got there. So there's stylistic differences that can allow you to be more successful. But Mark, as we were working on this story, we started
arm wrestling through
arm wrestling, yeah, it's not easy. We started to realize that, a lot of the advice is to mimic the behavior of the other side when you're dealing with a boss of the opposite sex, and that's a big part of some of the strategies.
But our favorite strategy out of all of the strategies is that actually it really doesn't matter. The best thing you can do is wash your mind of all of the stereotypes and deal with humans the way they would like to be dealt with.
Wow.
We all get the do unto others as you would have them do unto you. But it'd be much better if I say, Mark, how would you like to be treated?
Yeah.
And then treat you that way. It's the platinum rule as opposed to the golden rule.
And if I look at most bosses, I would say to men bosses, see what you can learn from women about compassion and about relationships. And I would look to the opposite, I would say look at what you can learn from men in terms of strategic thinking. I think the best workplace is a workplace where each sex learns from each other.
It's clear that stereotyping, I mean, if you walked in and said, boy, did you see ESPN last night? Or if you said, oh, I saw Oprah last night, it was so wonderful. I mean, that's pretty sick, isn't it? I mean, it's just kind of sickening
It can be a little frightening,
to gloss over and just assume that they're going to like ESPN if they're a man or they're going to be watching Oprah if they're a woman, right?
Exactly. And that's why you need to ask, how would you like to be treated? And you also need to observe other people, like Bob was saying. That's one of the strategies that we know works really effectively, is watch. What works? How does interacting with this person work? And if it's sports, that's okay. And if it's Oprah, that's okay. And you might be surprised.
And I'm a big believer in looking at the office. Who is the most effective person dealing with a boss, offering them a cup of coffee and picking their brains?
Wow.
You know, what can you learn from people who are successful?
So don't anticipate a certain behavior from a tie and a certain behavior from a skirt.
Okay.
You know, but what you need to do is just anticipate that person that's in front of you and work with them at their level.
Well, some good advice. Once again, we've learned something. Bob Rosner, Sherrie Campbell, thanks a lot for being with us again.
Thanks, Mark.